You're listening to The People's Pitch, the official podcast of Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by Football Stadium Prince. Let's start the show.
And as I talked about just a couple minutes ago, as Joe Watt stands over this one, he appears to be the one taking the penalty here. This is a huge confidence booster if you're Duluth.
Worst case scenario for City right here.
And it stopped! Yes! And it stopped!
Totally redeems himself.
Matt Elder redeeming himself. Oliver with the right foot. The shot is goal!
Oliver!
Justin Oliver will break the scoreless tie. And it is 1-0 Minneapolis City. It's Hutton now on the offense with the left foot. And it is now 2-0 Minneapolis City.
Good finish.
Nick Hutton taking his quick victory lap.
It is still cold as shit in Minnesota, but soccer is in the air, my friends. This is the People's Pitch Podcast, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City Soccer Club. I'm your host, John, and with me, warming up his game day vocals, is the Nate Morales. Nate, are you ready or what, man?
Yeah, dude. I'm warming up the game day vocals. I'm firing up the game day playlists. I've got a lot going on this week, man, to get ready.
Got the button bar ready for when
you know it. Additional sound bites. It's gonna be good. I'm gonna be firing on all cylinders starting Wednesday this week.
Yeah, we'll learn more about that. I too am also, getting ready. I watched the game back earlier today just to kind of remember how the booth operates and when I should say stupid shit and when I shouldn't. So I feel like I'm getting there. I maybe one more rehearsal and
Sure.
And I'll be good to go. I think so. But tonight is all about looking forward to 3 seasons. Let me say it again. 3 seasons of soccer crammed into one summer. We are talking about not only the UPSL, the NPSL, and the USL League 2 schedules. All the SLs, Nate. We're covering them all today.
All of them.
What the schedule looks like for this upcoming soccer week and what to expect from us as we flex to cover all this crazy stuff in the next few months on this here show. So there's really no reason to dilly-dally. So we're going to dive right in with the UPSL.
Yes. Yeah, man. This year, just like last year, Minneapolis City will be playing in the UPSL Midwest West Division. Very hard to understand how the UPSL is organized, but that just know that is what the division that we are playing in is called. 10 other teams are going to be in this division with some new faces and a few, I would say, worthy adversaries. This year, instead of a little different than last year, though, where last year we had MC2, which was kind of the evolution of the U23 team. Some guys that would get called up, some guys that had been called up from futures, some guys that went up to the NPSL by the end of the year. Really, this year, the UPSL is going to be the futures team. Anyone that played on Minneapolis City futures throughout the wintertime is eligible. I know there was some spring programming as well, where some college guys will come back and play. But for the most part, the UPSL is going to be all futures all the time. So if you want to see what is going to be the future of Minneapolis City and get on board with some of the hot young players before they blow up in the NPSL or USL2, this is the place. And I saw the roster, John, for Wednesday, and we're starting out hot. We are not messing around. We are going forward with some of our most valuable futures players in the roster on Wednesday. But let's talk about first, who are the teams that we're going to be playing against? All very local, except for maybe one or two. I think Dakota is probably the farthest. Maybe Austin, Minnesota. But we've got the Brooklyn Knights leading off the season. We played against them last year. Valora FC, John, you know a lot about them because they're kind of well established in the amateur soccer community locally, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We tangled with them a few times.
Yeah, Granite City gave us a run in the UPSL playoffs last year, and we'll be firing against them again this year. Rochester FC, our old friends FC Minneapolis are back.
Mm-hmm.
Dakota Young Stars, that's a team from Sioux Falls, coming all the way, which is nice. Turbo FC, I'm not really sure where they're from, but I think I guess I heard they're fast. My favorite team of the 10, Austin Villa from Austin, Minnesota. I mean, I think hey man, if that's where your team is from, that's great. You got to go all in on that.
You gotta lean into it.
Yeah, so the Villains will be coming to town. Maplebrook 58ers, which I believe is the next step up in the Maplebrook youth system.
Well, they were supposed to be in the league last year, but something, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're making they wrote their check and the UPSL said, sure, why not?
Come on in. And then another new team besides Austin Villa, another new team is Ibusa FC. That's EBUSA FC. Don't know a lot about them, but we'll see them. We'll see them this year at the Nelly.
Yeah, I mean the first test, obviously, you mentioned the Brooklyn Knights this Wednesday, and we'll drop in all those details in a second here on when folks can show up and where to go. But surprisingly enough, looking at the standings from last year, they were one of the teams who was really surprising when we look at the table, because they finished second behind Minneapolis City 2. Even though it was kind of a runaway division for MC2, they finished with 25 points, and Brooklyn Knights had 16 behind them. But one thing I noticed too is that there were two teams in the division that played 9 games, and everyone else played 8. I don't know. I took this from the UPSL website, so I have to believe it's true. But Minneapolis City and Granite City were the only 2 teams that played 9 games. Was that adding in that like weird playoff game that they made us play?
It might be. That's a good point.
Because everyone else played 8 games, so
we played only once, except for Granite City.
Yeah, so maybe that was what they did there. But Granite City finished 3rd, which I thought they were the best team in the division. But I also admittedly did not watch the Brooklyn Knights play. But you did, and you were gonna talk through that. But yeah, it's good to see that there's some new blood in here. A 10-team group is a little bit heavy in my opinion. I think 8 is kind of tops, so there's 4 and 4, home and away. But yeah, I don't know. Like UPSL is always a mystery. But why don't you tell us a little bit of but so first off, like we talked about, Brooklyn Knights are coming up. The UPSL Midwest West Division is what I like to call an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Some people think they know what it is, and some people think they know what it is, and everyone has to wait until the end, and then there's always a twist, and then they find out what it is. That's the UPSL. And the Brooklyn Knights were, one of the teams that, like we talked about, contested last year, leading to their second place finish, just behind MC2, before just disastrously crashing out at the end of the season, where I think they blew a huge lead that would have put them into that playoff spot. And then Granite City was able to sneak in. So you saw more of them than I did last year. So why don't you go give your rundown of who these guys are?
Yeah, we caught the Knights a little earlier in the season last year too. I believe we'd only played 3 games each, and we were both kind of tied for first place as the 2 undefeated teams. Oh no, because anyway, at least if I remember right.
Yeah, we finished undefeated, so they were at that point.
They didn't really seem interested. It felt like, to deploy a lot of offensive pressure throughout the game. They had a lot of lazy defending. They had some bad turnovers. I remember they had a goalkeeper with some really bad hands. And we scorched them, I think, to the tune of 4-0. Goals from Cole, I think Derek Ullman, Popkin, Nils, a lot of goals in that game, and it was not cool for Brooklyn, and they never really tested Mitch Wolf, who was our goalkeeper for that game last year, which is fine. So I'm just interested to see this year what their offense looks like against a much more junior team of City last year, because last year we did have those kind of veterans, you could say, on that MC2 squad, right? Yeah. Between Ullman and Cole, and even you could say Nils was a little bit older. Mitch Wolf, Abai, Mitch Wolf helping organize that back line. Without that this year, I'm interested to see what the Knights deploy against us, and whether or not they're able to bring a little bit more pressure against our defense.
I kind of feel, though, that like this season is going to be kind of much of what we saw last season in this division, where it's not a lot of preparation for your opponent. It's kind of just going out there and just
Playing your
playing.
system. Yeah.
Not even your system, just like kicking around on like a nice day.
Yeah.
Um,
Some of those teams are definitely like that. Yep.
yeah, and then then there's the likes. I'm sure Maplebrook will be relatively organized. And same with Granite City. We saw that in the past, and some of the other teams were organized, just didn't have the firepower. But I feel like the futures group. I'm interested to see what happens. I'll talk about it a little bit here in a bit, but I think that Minneapolis City might be the most prepared team in the division again. I may be wrong, but it seems like that.
Hard to think that we won't be. But
Yeah.
yeah, John, you're right. That was kind of my big question: is the futures are going to, like I said, are going to be the ones that are running in these UPSL games. We know that some of them eventually would be more likely to get called into action with the NPSL and USL2 teams. So who are these young faces that we want to get excited about this summer?
Well, Nate, if there's one mystery for our club, which we don't have a ton of mystery around here, it's who the future staff deploys for not only this match but in these games. What we do know is that there are some names that folks familiar to this pod have heard of before. Most notably, future McAllister center back Nick Kent, who we had on our 200th episode, and is the youngest brother of former Minneapolis City defensive staple Max Kent. But along with Nick, there are some notable players, and you mentioned before that it's primarily built up of players that were in the futures program and over the winter and into the spring a little bit. But there is a handful of what I'd call like futures veterans that are coming back from their first year away from the program in college. So if you kind of go back to where we were when we first started Minneapolis City, where we had some of the in-town guys, like AO and Andy Laurie, Matt Elder, Nate Engel, those type of guys that were just graduated but playing. But then you had your freshmen, sophomores in college that came back into the fray, and we still have that. But for the futures program being only in its second year, there are players that are coming back. Josh Wackerfuss is coming back. Fun name to say, but also a fun player to watch. But Josh was at Luther College for his freshman year. Johnny Bear, who was at Upper Iowa. Will Falkman, who was over in Scandinavia playing within a pro system, is back, as well as standout goalkeepers Peter Forseth, who was at Gustavus, and Evan Siefkin, who was the MIAC goalkeeper of the year as a freshman at St. John's. So like you're mixing them in with the talent that we saw in the future winter session, and it's going to be real fun to watch. And every City fan honestly should really get out to the Nelly to watch these guys run. But for me, the one question that's out there, Nate, is are these boys ready to jump up and play some grown ass men?
Yeah, that's a great point, because it's not common in the UPSL, I would say, for everyone to be as young as our players will be. You're going to get guys that are, especially on some of these teams like the Brooklyn Knights or Valora, even Granite City. You're going to get FC Minneapolis for sure. You're going to get guys that have been kicking around the Minnesota amateur soccer, the amateur soccer scene for quite a while. Some older maybe African immigrant players, older Hispanic players that know how to play and know how to play with each other. So it could be an interesting season for the futures, but we will find out first starting Wednesday.
And if I'm any college coach out there that's recruited into the futures program, and there's quite a few out there, I'm delighted that the players that I'm going to be getting at the end of the summer, this is what they're doing in the summer, because it's so invaluable for an 18-year-old to face off against a 25-year-old or older. And not just like the physicality of it, but just like the mental acumen of some of those players that have been there before and seen more on a soccer field. It's going to be really, really good for these younger kids to not only see that, but to understand how to navigate it. And then once they get to college, that fifth year senior using his COVID year isn't as scary as that 28-year-old guy from FC Minneapolis. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Yeah, they might be a
Mhm.
better player, but like physically, you're like, I went up against someone who was bigger, faster, stronger, and I know how to navigate that. So I really think it's going to be a benefit for these guys. And talent wise, though, you look at the roster, and it's full of young, talented players. I think that you look at Leo Runstead is I think the youngest player, and he's going into his senior year in high school, and he's gonna be doing this over the summer instead of trotting around and winning 7-0 against like Edina,
Yeah,
like at his own age group.
which feels a little more valuable.
Yeah, I would say so. But anyways, game details: 7 p.m. on Saturday, May 7th. So sorry, not Saturday. That's the next one we're going to talk about. Wednesday, May 4th. So in 2 days from this recording, 7 p.m. at Edor Nelson Field on the campus of Augsburg University, the Nelly. No tickets sales are happening, so the game is literally free. So you have zero excuses from a pocketbook perspective to not check this game out. So you're definitely going to want to come out. As far as stream goes for this game, but for all games, there will not be a live stream, but there will be a recording of the game going up on the 11 Sports app after the fact, so fans will be able to see on a delay these matches. So definitely check out the club page on 11 Sports, and you'll be able to check out this match if you don't take up the free 99 offer that we're having for these games at the Nelly on Wednesday, May 4th at 7 p.m.
John, next up, I want to talk about the NPSL North.
Yes.
That game, of course, that season opens up on Saturday. And this year's North looks like the pre-pandemic NPSL North with the Twin Stars coming back, which is very, very exciting. Twin Stars will be joined in the North by pretty much all the old staples: Duluth, Sioux Falls, Med City, Dakota Fusion. Eris is back. Constantly for some reason, somehow, and Joy.
You gotta watch that money somehow.
Yep. And Joy Athletic will be back looking to build on their inaugural season last year. So really we're back to the size that we were used to with the NPSL North. And if you've been a fan of Minneapolis City for a while, it's really just I guess VSLT has been replaced by Joy Athletic, and we're back to 2018.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like as far as like my thoughts on the season, obviously everyone keeps a keen eye on social media when players are being announced, and you look at the top half of the division, from the last couple of years, and it's been a 3-horse race between Minneapolis City, Duluth, and Med City. I don't see there being a reason for that to change. That it doesn't mean that it can't. There could be an M. Night Shyamalan twist again in this version of the SL, the NPSL, where maybe Joy has figured out, how it works, and they've shown they can bring some of their talented players up from the youth ranks and graduate them into their senior team, and they had some success, but they also figured out that it's not youth soccer in their debut season last year. Definitely interested in seeing what the Twin Stars bring to the fore. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But honestly, I think your 1, 2, 3 is going to kind of still be the battle. And then you're going to have your 4, 5, and 6, maybe 4 and 5 be similar to what it was last year, potentially. And then your bottom half, I don't see Eris doing anything that's going to scare anybody.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But as far as what we have first up for the Crows is the Minnesota Twin Stars. They're back, baby. A club with a long history in this league and with Minneapolis City since we joined in 2017. The Twin Stars are not new to anyone that follows the murder, and for regional soccer fans, they're also not new, as they were a founding member of the NPSL. They took that brief pandemic hiatus, which I feel like there was a good handful of clubs across the country that did that, but they are coming back and joining the conference again in 2022. This has been a fun and interesting rivalry since 2017.
It has.
There's just been like weird stuff. I mean, not all negative weird stuff. I mean, there was the infamous technical difficulties game There was a biting incident in a groin area, which is always interesting. All of a sudden, there was like a full-on production crew that showed up to do like local broadcast TV for one of our games against them. Yeah, this kind of has had
Wait, we
everything.
didn't ask them to be here. They just showed up and
They just told us they were like we were like the local broadcast game of the week.
oh, I
So,
wonder who organized that. That was also the Dick Stomp game. That
that was
wasn't the bite
another
game.
another stomping. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a lot of Dick region stuff
Mm-hmm.
happening. But when you take all of that when you take all of that away, the results have kind of gone the way of the Twin Stars up until about 2019 when the Crows began to kind of get a hold of these matches. But it's been competitive soccer when you kind of throw the antics out of it, which has been great because we've kind of always wanted to have that in town or close to in town rivalry. We when we started the conference, we had it with both Twin Stars and VSLT. Now VSLT's gone. Joy comes in. Now we have 3 teams in the area, which is nice because you're not only having a match that people kind of circle on their calendar because they want to check it out because it's 2 teams that are close by, but also gives the opportunity for more players to have homes, and
Yeah.
that's a really good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I believe in how those other 2 teams are set up or what they do, that's a different story. But when you kind of boil it down, it really is. It's all about having opportunities for players, which is why we're all in this. So really happy to have them back in. They typically deploy what I call like a hard nosed Italian kind of 3-5-2 formation. And at the foundation of that over the years was Kareem Darbaki, who I see once again is on the roster. So a couple questions kind of pop in there. I've heard, like, will he or won't he feature it, or instead is he going to take over from what I've heard, maybe team management from his father Yusuf Darbaki, who's the longtime head coach since the beginning, really,
Yeah.
that we've seen. So maybe there's another chapter turning over with that club with Yusuf maybe taking a little bit of a step back and Kareem taking the reins, and I think that'd be great because Kareem's a great player, really good, really quality background that he has, and it would be nice to see the next gen kind of get their shot.
That would be interesting. And didn't Kareem manage Granite City last year?
Yes,
Okay. So
and maybe he does this year. Who knows?
you're right. He might have some other obligations that maybe he's on the roster, but he might not show up except in the games that that are the games under the big lights, like against us and things like that. But we'll see. He was always someone that would give us fits and knows how to play in the NPSL. That's for sure.
Always would he always scored a goal against us
Mm-hmm.
when we were at home, always, and
Mm-hmm.
it was always what seemed to be a backbreaker.
Yep.
But they've also produced a lot of really quality players. I mean, over the years we saw a lot of them migrate our way, just looking for something different. But you know, um, I mean, yeah, I'm excited they're back. I don't know if everyone is, but I am.
No, I think it's gonna be great. I honestly do. We haven't really seen the Twin Stars though, John, in a few years. Like you said, they took some time off. Is this team still I don't want to say the pinnacle, but is this team still heavily involved in youth development? Do they have a youth organization still? I honestly have no idea what to expect from them. I haven't heard much since I
I
think
don't either.
we talked about it on the show years back, but they did have a very strange like merger situation a few years back between, I think there's some controversy in a merger that they had tried out between them and Eclipse, and then I thought there was a merger that they were merging with Maplebrook, and their website went down, and Maplebrook took on their logo for a little bit, and now that's out the window. So I
I have
guess
no
I'm not
idea.
really sure what's going on with this team, but here they are in the NPSL.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't even want to pretend I know
Yeah.
because I don't. But as I noted, we'll find out what they are when the ball rolls out this weekend. But one thing you can bet on is that they do have their pulse on talent that's out there.
Yeah.
So they'll definitely draw on that. Whether it's Youssef or Kareem at the helm, they're going to be able to bring in talent. I know some players. There'll be some familiar faces on their roster for sure that you've seen before, but also they've been good at bringing players up the youth ranks as well. But for me, Nate, it's going to be a great test for us to see how this by competition based model that the Crows are deploying with their senior roster. It'll be interesting because this will be the first time where we have back-to-back game days with the MPSL and USL2, and we talked to Coach Mario. But it'll be interesting to see, how they deploy a roster for the first match, specifically for him, his first match in charge. It's another storyline we kind of just forgot to mention that we have a new head coach. So if you haven't checked out Marco, Coach Marco on our show, definitely go back and listen to him and get to know him a little more before the ball rolls out this weekend. But are we going to have two distinct rosters? Are we going to have some sharing of players? How are we going to do it? The college guys aren't quite back in yet, so maybe there's some opportunity for guys to get, a half in each game. Mm-hmm. Who knows? So we'll definitely find out, but it's another interesting storyline for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be cool to see, like you said, is it going to be a matter of there are some guys on the bench in Saturday's game that they just want to make sure they're warm in time for Sunday? Or is it going to be two totally separate rosters? We really have been kind of kept in the dark around how that's gonna work. So hopefully the management has it taken care of.
Well, I'm not totally in the dark, Nate, but don't want to give any trade secrets.
That's right. I'm in the dark, John.
Yeah, you are in the dark. But if you're interested in checking out the game, I think I'm going to bring the kids. I think I'm going to go to the match. It's on Saturday, May 7th at 7 p.m. away at Park Center High School. You're all definitely good at using the internet by now. You can go check out where Park Center High School is. Figure out where that is, plug it into your device, and it'll tell you exactly how to get there. Tickets, no clue. Just turn up with some cash and a card, and maybe you can get in to watch the game. So no idea on that. Stream, also no clue, but I believe it's mandatory. So check out 11 Sports and see if there's a match being broadcast. I do believe there'll be something, but I just don't have any idea what it is right now.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that this year all NPSL games are supposed to be streamed, no matter who the home team is. So
dude, Eris will not figure it out. Guarantee that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, let's move on up, John. The 6-team far north division of the USL2 is by far the most exciting narrative for me this summer. Between deep north. I forget. But between a budding rivalry with Des Moines and a chance to see a lot of local talent coming from the St. Croix direction, this 12-game schedule is going to be really, really awesome. And it is most teams have at least a home and away. And that's what makes it a 12-game schedule. You've got St. Croix, you've got the St. Croix Legends out there in Stillwater, you got Des Moines Menace, Peoria City down there in the middle of Illinois somewhere. And then we've got our two Canadian teams, which are really gonna, it's so deep. That's what makes it deep, because you've got the Thunder Bay Chill and FC Manitoba way up in Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you're going back historically, so post pandemic, like heart of the pandemic, when soccer opened up again, I think it was a border closing issue where the Thunder Bay Chill and FC Manitoba did not feature in the USL2. But now they're obviously able to come back. But Thunder Bay Chill is no joke, man. They have put out a quality outfit when they were in the NPSL before the brief hiatus. They, I believe, went pretty deep in the playoffs a couple years. Always giving the teams in their divisions fits, and there's a ton of talent in Canada, and I know for a fact because we get all of the player interest forms, and there's tons of players from Canada looking to come to the U.S. this summer, and I know the talent's there. So you'd have to believe that a lot of that stays in Canada, as opposed to sprinkling throughout the states. But I'm really interested in seeing what they have to offer, as well as FC Manitoba. I mean, it's an interesting trip for North American, for United States teams to go across the border, because you kind of don't want to go one weekend and then have to come back. You kind of want to hit the swing. So I think a
Yeah,
lot of their games are going to be like a Saturday, a Friday, Sunday affair. So that could be
really.
to their benefit, for teams that don't want to take a large roster on a trip across the border. You got visa issues, vaccination status, things like that don't come into play in like the MPSL. So really interesting there. Peoria City being new, same with St. Croix. It'll be interesting to see there. I know St. Croix is going to be strong. There's quite a few players that were St. Croix kids growing up that were with us that chose to go back to St. Croix, which totally get.
Hmm.
As well as some players that didn't make the roster this year that are also strong. So there's definitely going to be some names on the St. Croix roster. In Peoria City, who knows? They're coached by the head coach at Bradley. That was the head coach for former Minneapolis City all-time leading goal scorer Will Kidd when he was at Bradley. This guy deploys like a man marking system, which is really unique. So who knows if he tries to deploy that at this level? We will see. And of course, the team we got this weekend, which we'll talk about in a second, which everyone's probably heard of.
Yeah, that's for sure. One thing to note real quick, John, there are two teams that we play 3 times. That's how we're getting to a 12 game schedule. And that means we play St. Croix and Peoria City thrice. How lucky would it be for us if we find ourselves in a playoff push if those two teams end up to be the weakest of the bunch?
I mean, it'd be great. I think that what you're going to see out of the USL versus the NPSL is that there'll be less parity when it comes to how strong these teams are because of the league, the league status, I guess, or the stature of the USL2. So I think you're going to see um, a lot more talent in this division than you would in the NPSL North. Not to say that there isn't talent in the NPSL North. I don't want anyone to think that. There's
Mhm.
definitely talented players there. But when it comes to USL2 and how these teams are built and where they're located, a lot of them are the only thing in town outside of
Sure.
St. Croix and us. And we've already talked about there's plenty of opportunities for players to play in this area, but the cream kind of bubbles to the top in the area when it comes to USL versus the NPSL.
Okay.
So I would look at, like there may not be like a clear bottom feeding set of teams like there might be in the NPSL or the US or the UPSL, like there is across the country in those two leagues. I think this is going to be a little bit different where everyone is decent. But first up for the Crows, Des Moines Menace. Don't think I need to talk a lot about them because we already did on the show when we were going into the Open Cup. But they are the reigning national champions from 2021. So thanks for the gift, schedule makers,
Yeah.
scheduling us with them. But this club is the gold standard at the highest level of pre-professional soccer, and I think some folks in North Carolina with the team in the two teams out there that are in the USL2 may have a bone to pick with me after saying that. But historically speaking, the Des Moines Menace have been the gold standard in the old PDL and now the USL2. They've kicked out more pros than almost any club at this level. They've won trophies all over the place, trophies on trophies, and we just finished facing them in the Open Cup. So we know what to basically expect. There's going to be some ballers, Nate. There's going to be
Mhm.
some of the guys that we saw that there's a little bit of an overlap. But if you ask me, do I think that's going to be the same guys that we face? I would say no. I think there's going to be some, but I really do feel like how they're typically built. A lot of the guys that we faced in the Open Cup were guys that were hired hands for that tournament, or borrowed for a loan, I guess you could say, for the tournament from higher ranks of soccer. So there is an opportunity where it's going to be different, but what it means for us and for this conference, you might ask, is this might be the best chance we have at the champions. Um, you know, They may not have their full side in this early. Typically, they haven't. But that didn't seem to deter them, like I said, from the Open Cup and trotting out some really good players. So we might actually have the opportunity where we have been training longer together, building off the momentum of the last game that we played against them in, fitting in a few more pieces that weren't there in the Open Cup game that I think maybe are ones that we can watch out for. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I think this could be our shot at taking down the champs, and it'd be a real big statement for us if we could do that.
Yeah, I think this really is a revenge game for us, whether or not it's the same players on the other side of the field, right? It's an organization that knows how to build a team. Like you said, even though we might not see a lot of the mercenaries that we went up against in the Open Cup, I don't know. I feel like we're still going to be hard pressed to come away from our home opener with the W.
Yeah, well, you think that it's going to be hard to,
I think it's going to be
get
tough.
the win?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be tough. But if the stars aligned, the Open Cup, if the Open Cup showed us anything, it's that we can compete with this club and this team. Yes, we both are missing some players. I mean, they have some real solid players coming in from the Division I ranks that I know of. But I feel like the core pieces of what we were missing, and I kind of alluded to it briefly before, we were missing some key players in that match that I think would have potentially turned the tide a little bit. I don't think maybe it meant like guaranteed win if we had this guy. But
No.
what I'm saying is like there were, I mean, Luik went out as a high school kid and played 90 minutes and scored a goal. Like, yes, he performed, but if you were asking me ahead of time and we didn't have, some of the players that we know we have, I would have been like, I don't know, man. Like, this is what we're doing. But then some of those guys performed. So you add on to that with the other players we have, I think it could potentially be something special. But the nice thing, I think, Nate, is this whole year, we don't have the weight on our shoulders like we do in the MPSL as that team with the target on our back. That's Des Moines. That's Des Moines' problem to have.
That's a good point.
Being the national champion, and we're not the focal point. So with that comes the ease of kind of just going out, playing soccer, doing our best, learning what we can learn, like we've done in the first year of every league we've been in, and through that, course correcting anything that we learn or we need to do in the second year, and potentially then use this year as our feeling out process, like kind of our test case, also to see how like the senior roster stuff works out as well. But with all that said, Nate, I want to win the conference. So I don't want to say like we come in last, like it's just a learning experience. Fuck that. We're not coming in last.
Yeah, that's all right.
I want to win.
I think that's a good point. And for me, it's just a reminder that like we have been for a while conditioned to expect the win. And now it's like there's a whole new dimension added to being a Minneapolis City fan, and that like we might lose these games.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, it sounds, I don't want it to be negative about it, but it's actually a little bit exciting that like there's some nail biting to it. It's not like we're playing video games on easy mode anymore. It's like, what happens if we crank it up to legendary?
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me, absolutely. And what we've learned with Minneapolis City in the past is that we tend to play down to competition and we tend to get up for bigger games.
Mm-hmm.
So like if every game's a bigger game, that's good. And yeah, it means maybe we drop a 3-2 game, or we dip in form for a week or two and we see a string of losses together, which we've never seen before. That stuff can all happen, but that's also soccer, and it's what makes it exciting, instead of it just being like, another year where we might go undefeated in the NPSL, which is great, don't get me wrong, but at some point it also is like it loses a little bit of its luster, in my opinion. And yeah. I think it's okay to say that. I really do. This is my take. I don't know if anyone agrees with me, but I say all that with me also saying I want to win.
I want to win. The guy want me to want to win.
Yeah, exactly. But if we don't win, it's a learning experience, and it just means that we have to figure out how to course correct for next year. And then the monkey is on our back next year for sure. So
the big game, the big opener, the debut.
Game details. Sunday, May 8th, 3 p.m. Mother's Day. So why not bring your mom?
So why not piss your wife off?
Yeah, exactly. Can't wait for that to happen. Sunday, May 8th, Mother's Day, 3 p.m. at home, Edor Nelson Field on the campus of Augsburg University. You all know where it is. Tickets at mplscitysc.com. $15 general admission, $7 for students. I believe that's also kid price to a certain age. We'll call them students as well. And then for $50, there's the Crow's Nest. We didn't talk about that yet, Nate.
Is it still open?
Yeah, the Crow's Nest is still open from what I believe, unless someone snagged it up. But if you're interested in future games at the Crow's Nest, $50 gets you a table side at pitch side. And we know it's the tight confines of the Nelly. So a pitch side tent with a table, especially when weather's kind of coming down, might not be a bad idea. So grab some friends and join us at the Crow's Nest. $50, not a bad deal. As far as the stream goes, you bet your ass there's going to be a stream. Nordo and I will be on the mic, on the mic, so you can catch all the action on 11 Sports, and keep a lookout on our social channels. I just saw that link for the match was just posted on Twitter by the club, so you can check out the link there. And yeah, man, are we going to have a stream?
Get real.
Is the Pope Catholic? Come on, folks. We are.
John, one thing I want to talk about next is, you may have noticed there are going to be a lot of games this season. A lot of games this season. And that means that you and I have had to we're going to make some adjustments in how we cover those games in this here podcast. One thing that, people might be used to doing is listening and kind of hearing our recap of the game, almost our play-by-play, how the goals came, the flow of play, and kind of how the momentum shifted from one moment to the next. We're not going to be doing that anymore, because we will it's just so much like that. Each show will be 2 hours. Like, there's just no way to cover 2, 3. It was hard enough last year to cover 2 games, much less 3, maybe 4 in a week span, between shows. That's just crazy talk. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do this year is we've added some staff, we can say, and every game will get a play-by-play, every game will get a recap, posted by our official city archivist,
correspondent
Kyle Eliason. Kyle does did the US Open recap. He does a lot of the writing in some of the other places you'll see online about Minneapolis City, and Kyle's just basically going to after every game write up his recap, read it into a microphone, and post it on the People's Pitch podcast. And you'll see those episodes popping up without like an episode number. You'll see them popping up separately as recap of Minneapolis City versus Des Moines Menace. And that means that frees you and I up, John, to do some weekly podcasts that cover off on some of those higher level in-game seasonal narratives. And then, of course, make sure to preview the next action for each team. Yeah. And, and that means there's going to give us a little bit of opportunity to dive in a little bit more into the narratives of each conference as well. Playoff scenarios, things like that. Anything else, John, that you think we're going to be able to cover off on without the recaps being a part of the show?
I mean, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag here, but we're doing some in-stadium things too, and some in-stream things too that I think are should be noted. Nate, don't you?
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, we'll be adding for our USL 2 games. We'll be adding a sideline reporter Actually, it's going to be a sideline reporter by committee. So we'll talk a little more in depth about what that is and who those folks are once you hear their voices. But we're going to have a third, obviously a third member to our broadcast team for each USL2 game. We're going to have maybe some additional cameras that are going to be around the stadium as well. Think of like what happened in the playoffs. We'll also there's also the some we talked about them before, the promotions that are going on for the folks that didn't listen to the last episode. We have the promotions, maybe some in-game stuff there. We'll have Gunner from the Southside Barber Lounge doing beard trims. We'll have the food truck. We'll have it all. Why not come down? You're gonna have everything you need.
That's right.
So yeah, we'll have some really cool stuff there that will also add to the game day experience. But also, like you mentioned, the stuff for the pod, I think it's perfect. Kyle's already writing this stuff, so why would we want to go do that and just basically reread what he has to say in our own words? So I think it'll be interesting. Much like the senior roster this year, having to do multiple competitions as a single unit, we also have to do multiple competitions on the show. So let's make it easier for ourselves. But I did want to mention one thing that came out that I didn't put in our show notes here, is that the USL League 2 came out with their power rankings, their top 25, Nate.
They did?
And yeah, today it just popped up. And at number 9 is a familiar club, and that's Minneapolis City. And
Wow.
I'll just read the little write-up here. So we're now in the top 10 of a league we haven't played in yet. But here's what
That's
the
a
league
trap.
had to
It's
say.
a trap.
Yeah, here's the league had to say. This is our second expansion team in our top 10. Minneapolis City has been a top club in the amateur ranks prior to joining the league 2 this season. Well, yeah, that's true. The Crows had the best record that anyone in their former league had, winning 10 straight matches at one point last season. They've already gone up against Des Moines Menace in the Open Cup, losing 4-2 in an absolute thriller of a match. Yep. Little
True.
thing called a vanger happened. The club will also have a strong backing with supporters group. The Citizens is expected to pack Edor Nelson Field for their home opener rematch against the Des Moines Menace. So there it is.
Wow.
Look at that. Des Moines Menace comes in at 2. So there's that. Let's see if I can pull up the top 25 real quick. Yeah, here we go. Bear with me 1 second. Real quickly running them down. North Carolina Fusion U23, who lost to Des Moines Menace in the final last year. That's one of the teams I was talking about in the Carolinas that might not want to hear what I had to say. The Des Moines Menace, Capital City FC, one Knoxville SC, Western Mass Pioneers, number 6 Kalamazoo FC, former NPSL team, Westchester United, another former NPSL team from the past, South Georgia Tormenta FC 2, Minneapolis City, Flint City Bucks, South Carolina United, Second United Phantoms, Long Island Rough Riders, great name. The Vermont Green FC, our buddy Matt Wolf, the Villages SC at 15, Ocean City Nor'easterners at 16, the Boston Bolts, Mississippi Brilla FC, PDX FC out of Portland, Ballard FC, no idea where they're from, West Virginia United, Lionsbridge FC, FC United Chicago, Kings Hammer FC, and Park City Red Wolves are the top 25. So you don't see our friend Jonathan Wardlaw's team in there. You don't see our friends in Ann Arbor. You don't see Oakland in there. So yeah, interesting, man.
That is interesting.
We're ranked pretty darn high.
And why Vermont? Like, wonder what's going on, what they know about what's going on in Vermont, where they're going to rank them high.
I have no idea. I don't know how these are tabulated. I know none of that. But all I know is that they put us at number 9 and number 2, the Des Moines Menace, and they put us against each other in the first match. So I think they were trying to tell the fans something.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I mean, I don't know I mean, that's a lot to talk about today. We went through 3 different teams worth of logistical items, as well as talked a little bit about how we're leveling up on the season, both on the pod and in the booth for your game day streaming experience, John. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this week's show. Thank you to our wonderful show sponsor, footballstadiumprints.com. It's just about time to gear up. If you've waited too long, if you're in the market for some supremely curated soccer-focused graphic design on all of your things, mugs, t-shirts, walls, head over to footballstadiumprints.com and fill up that cart. There's also he's also dipping his toes into the NFT game. If you follow him on Twitter, he's doing some cool stuff. Don't forget, when you check out, after you buy your mug, t-shirt, whatever, you can use the code CROWS10 for 10% off everything you can purchase besides the NFTs. And remember, all U.S. orders ship right from the States, so there's no international shipping charges. Remember, Minneapolis City is a 501c3 organization. We're going to be out in the community this summer, partnering with organizations like Soul of the City's Futsal League to bring the beautiful game to all of the little children. Consider beefing up that tax deduction ahead of next year through a charitable gift to the club. If you're interested in getting a hold of the club, we have made it simple. You can hit the club up on Twitter at MPLSCitySC, or you can hit up the show directly at The People's Pitch, or you can email us at mcscpodcast@gmail.com. That is all for this week. I am Nate. That was John. Oh my God, I can just feel it. We are so close. T-minus a matter of hours before live soccer kicks off at the Nelly. Make sure you get out this week, whether it's Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, or all three. Go get those tickets and...
Yeah.